Welcome to the Blessed Mindset Matters podcast. We are on WYTV7 Community Broadcasters Network. This is actually our last broadcast for the season. We are celebrating fathers. We normally don't even do this because we stop in May and we don't get to fathers. But I was like, I need to celebrate fathers because I'm a daddy's girl. So I wanted to celebrate fathers. And Blessed Mindset Matters because you know what? Fathers matter. And I have a wonderful guest with us, Marquise Dennis. He's the founder of Birthright Living Legacy out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. So I'm not going to go into my whole spiel before. I just want to get straight to Marquise. Thank you for being here.
Hey, it is an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here. And thank you for what you're doing for celebrating fathers, by the way.
Well, like I said, I'm a daddy's girl. So let's just get right into it. Tell us about Birthright Living Legacy.
So Birthright Living Legacy is an organization that is created to help celebrate and support fathers by giving them the resources and the tools necessary to lead their families.
That's awesome. And, of course, I have to ask you, why did you start this?
Oh, man. So the overwhelming need for fathers to be supported was so apparent. I, having 3 children outside of wedlock, I found out really quickly that the system was stacked against me in order for me to try to be in my children's lives. If I wasn't wealthy or if I didn't continue to play this cat and mouse game with the parents or the mothers, then I would not be allowed to see my child. And so for that, it started to get me to question, like, well, what is the outcome of that? And so I started to do some research, and I found out that, you're 7 times more likely to be a teen pregnant. You're more likely to end up in prison. The juvenile justice system almost solely depends on fatherlessness. And then there was a couple of staggering numbers that truly shocked me, Raquel. One being out of the 29.3 million children absent of their fathers, they represent 63% of suicide, 90% of homelessness. And the one that shocked me the most, speaking that you're a daddy's girl, this should hopefully hit home as well, but 80% of all rape happens from fatherless people.
Wow. That's staggering. And let me just say, everybody, my listeners know how I feel. So last year, my nephew, he died by suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't have his father in his life. And that was a sore spot. He really wanted his father in his life. I'm not gonna blame his father.
Right.
That's not what I'm gonna do. But when you said that, it did something to me because I'm like, my son's father, I had a baby out of wedlock also.
Right.
My son's father was not. But one of the things that I made a point to do was, even though he didn't pay me my child support, he still owed me enough that I could give my son a down payment on a house. Okay.
Yeah.
He didn't do that, but I did not keep that from letting him have a relationship with my son. Now, Marquise, I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
I wasn't paying for the plane ticket for my son to go see him.
Yeah.
I felt like that was drawing the line. I did not hold it against him for saying so. I made a point, but let me tell you the other thing, and I really need women to hear this, and kids without father. Even if your father is not the person a father figure is always helpful. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, 100%. And I would say, honestly, thank you so much for your maturity and seeing the need for your son to have the opportunity to get to know his other half. Because what people don't understand is a young boy specifically that grows up with the identity crisis of not understanding the other side of himself will cause such a void. I mean, you have to understand, like, one of our sayings here at Birthright is you get your values from mom, which is your your morals, your ethics, your behavioral patterns, but you get your value from dad. And that's your merit, your worth, your importance. So if you go outside of the home without either one of those vital roles, you are going to fill it with something. And so I'm so glad that you had the maturity to realize that, money aside, my son is the most important factor in this equation. And so the issue is that, even when talking to the child support, the heads of child support, their main focus is, how do we get dads current? And I said, I guarantee you that if you start to protect my right to see my child, you won't have that problem. Because even though he's not paying you support, he definitely brought that child out on the plane ticket. He then had to take care of that child while he was there. And then when he's able to say, hey, Dad, I need these things, it becomes less about you and more about the child. And that's where you want dads to get, because if they don't get that opportunity, because moms have 9 months to be able to mature and grow with that child in their stomachs. When dads get that opportunity? Here, when they get to hold that child. And if you are not married, chances are there's going to be several fights that happen leading up to the birth of that child. And until the dad has an opportunity to take care of a child that is not able to take care of himself, there's parts of his brain that doesn't even open yet. And so that's why that relationship is so important early on, because that's what gives the dads that notion to say, I need to help, I need to take care, I need to spur her on to be able to take care of our child as well. But you find yourself with these childish men, and myself, I was one of them with 3 kids, but I always lacked that connectivity after. And now that I have a child in marriage, I see what she went through without me being there, with the late nights, the needing to get food, or throwing up after every meal and having to figure out what it is that's going to help. I had to apologize to my kids' mothers. Like, I had no idea, because in my mind, just because I was physically there, I'm already doing better than my dad. But there's more to it. And this is why marriage protects that, because it keeps that man focused on what is the most important thing. It is taking care of mom so she can take care of the child, so we can produce a productive citizen that is going to change the family lineage forever to come.
That you just said a whole word, a whole mouthful. And because first of all, I applaud you for knowing that you were childish, for understanding that you, as a father that didn't live in the home, and that you did not understand everything that woman went through.
Right.
And calling and apologizing to them, because I think that's where a lot of stuff, a lot of these women who, we have these babies, and we didn't know it was going to be like this. Especially like me, I was an only child, so I didn't grow up with younger siblings to see my mom go through that. It was just like, wait a minute, this is a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And if people don't understand how much it is, if the man doesn't understand it is a lot, then he doesn't understand that woman being mean and mad and just like, it's unfair, and like, well, you need to pay me because I'm working a lot. And they don't understand. It's like, they think that, oh, the woman wants the money for themselves, but it's not necessarily they want it for themselves, but they're like, they doing a lot of work, and they doing all the work, and they like, somebody should pay me to do all of this, and you get to live scot-free. And if I'm just asking for $400, that is nothing compared to all the stuff that I'm doing. And most of that money is going for formula and Pampers and making sure we pay the rent and all that stuff. But, so if you are teaching fathers that, I applaud Birthright Living Legacy. Let me just say that.
We teach fathers that they're not only in charge, that they're not only, the head of the household, but you're also responsible. You are responsible for the outcomes of that child. And so, speaking of it, and because dads don't get off scot-free, please know that. There's a lot that goes into it, but this is why the sanctity of having that commitment was so important. Because without that commitment, any of us can dip out and leave. And I can assure you, if men were able to get services like welfare and all those kinds of things, it would make it a lot easier on some of these fathers or single fathers, but they don't exist. This is why birthright had to come into play, is because when a dad is down on his luck and he needs help and he needs assistance, there's nowhere he can go. And so when you talk about the money aspect, that represents the future of that mate. And even though if he doesn't connect that he's responsible for that child yet by being able to mature, then he is going to only see a bill. I won't ever get to eat the meal, but I will see that bill every week or 2 weeks. So what do you think's happening on my end as a father? I'm thinking, oh, if they wouldn't have, then I could have. And then when you go to try to get housing, when you try to go get help, they're going to say, no, we have to take that total before child support. So I can't give you housing. I can't give you food stamps. I can't give you anything because that's not our problem. And so that's where the resentment builds up. And then they get us bickering back and forth, when really, if we separate that and say, hey, Dad, if she's getting her hair done, if she's getting her nails done, what would you do if you got extra money? You would do the same. Your responsibility is to make sure that they are eating, that they are sheltered, and they are clothed. And if you are doing that part, then yeah, she's supposed to have extra money. But if we don't have that conversation as dads, we're just going to be thinking, well, I'm just not going to work so they don't get nothing, and we all suffer.
Right. Marquise, we have to take a quick commercial break, but we're going to get back because this is such a great topic. Hey, do not turn away, watch the commercial and come right back. I'm Dr. Raquel Tolson, host of Blessed Mindset Matters. Is your mind on your money? Are you ready to be more intentional with your money? Then get my free booklet, Mind on My Money, Plan, Pocket, Protect. In this booklet, I offer you practical suggestions on planning intentionally, pocketing wisely, and protecting your money. Get the booklet at www.raqueltolson.com. That's RAYKELTOLSON. Get your free copy today. We are back with Marquise Dennis. Oh my goodness, this is such a great topic. I am loving this. So one of the things I can hear some women saying, Marquise, I can hear some women saying this. Well, I want my child to be in his father's life. I've never kept them, even though we don't get child support. I even know somebody that went through a divorce, told them that they would forgo child support so the father can use the money to bring the child back and forth, and for the father to fly to, see the child. And in the year, how many times that father has done that? 0, Marquise. 0. So you have some women, I know for a fact, you have some women that hold their babies hostages. If they're not getting no money, because some of them had the baby so they can get money. So they holding the hostage, right? But then you have some that really want the fathers involved. So how does your organization help with that?
So we help with that by removing some of the barriers that are in place. Because let me tell you, I have an 11 or a 12-year-old right now that his mother swears that she is never in the way of me seeing my child. But I can assure you, every time I'm going to pick him up, every time I'm going to want to do something with him, something happens. Oh, he can't come today, or he doesn't feel like coming, or this, that, and the third. So there's more to it than just I'm going to forego child support, because there's a mental, physical, and spiritual factor that goes into this parenting thing, and that we can't ignore. So when you say, what is my organization doing to help that? we sit down with the fathers to figure out what is the relationship really. Because for those of us that have been through the baby mama thing, there's a lot of dads that when they, do the child exchange, they think there's supposed to be some kind of sex payment. And that is not okay. So they have to understand the separation. So sometimes birthright will be the conduit of which those children are exchanged. We also do supervised visits. So if the dad is not familiar with the child, we can set up a barrier to help that exchange, because we have dads that are out of state and they want to come back in town, but the stipulations are because they don't have any family here, they can't do that switch over. Sometimes we help the dads by getting them train tickets to come and see their children. So our focus is being able to try to help dads understand, as the head of your life, as the person in charge of your life, you have to look at the big mirror, small window. You cannot worry about what it is that she's doing. You have to focus on, what can I do as the man that I'm supposed to do for my child? So if it's getting there, if it's getting resources, if it's setting up or even dealing, because like I said, there's a mental and a there's a lot to it. When you start connecting sexually with people, it connects you on a different level. And so sometimes, even though they'll let the child be seen by the father, they weaponize that child by saying, make sure your daddy does this, or tell your daddy he's good for nothing for that. I've shown up to actual events and I said, hey, enter, to win a date with your dad. We will pay for the gas. We'll pay for the arcade. We'll pay for the movies. And a woman literally in front of her child said, I ain't filling this out. His daddy ain't this, and this. And I said, ma'am, why would you say that in front of him? His daddy is sorry. And And I said, okay, well, I would love to have this conversation not in front of your child, but I watched how her son became immediately demasculated in that moment. Why? Because half of his DNA is this person that you're describing. So if you're telling me everything about this person is wrong, yet you picked him, mom, you decided to go there with him, mom, there is a level of responsibility on both ends. However, we try to teach our men to understand, I cannot worry about what she did or didn't do. What we can do is protect the right to be able to do what you need to do. And if you need to see your child, but you don't trust that it might be weaponized or there might be some kind of setup, we are the conduit to help those dads. If we have to go to court with you, we will go to court with you. Whatever we need to do to help protect your right as a father. Now, you can't be a jerk either. Like, you can't just come in, because one of the things that we do is when we do our biweekly meetings with the fathers, we set fathers across from fathers. You know what I mean? So the narrative changes. See, like if I was talking to you and I could say, Raquel, but I've this, I've that, and you say, oh, but he's trying. But see, when you sit across from another dad or another man that's been, fighting for his children, or somebody else that's been stepping in for other people's children, because we deal with 4 different types of fathers. We do the experience, the abandoned, which are fathers that didn't have fathers. Then we have the supervised, which are the fathers that are, baby daddy's drama or in divorce custody. And then we do the step-ups. These are the step-ups, the people that have stepped up to take those roles, pastors or, coaches or, uncles or whatever. So when you're sitting across from these 4 different types, these excuses you have, they don't hold up the same. So that's why it's so important that we build the community of fathers, because I can't come to you and say, I have the answer. What I can say is, whether you choose to spank your child or you choose to do timeout, there's a level of ineffectiveness and abuse in both. My job is to tell you what those are. You get to decide with your co-parent what those rules and parameters are going to be. Because if you can teach your kid, if you can teach your child communication, conflict resolution, and being able to, rise above adversity, man, you put your child up like leaps and bounds above so many others.
Let me stop you for a second, because you said you always say a mouthful, and I have to make sure for my listeners that I pick and choose stuff that Spirit say jump on that one. You said something that I need everybody to make sure they heard. When your child is half the other parent. So this goes for mamas and daddies and grandparents alike. Cause
Mhm.
I know I was probably bad mouth on the other side also. I did not bad mouth. I let the truth be the truth. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So if your child is half of each person, when you put down that person, you are putting down half of that child. So it's really, really important to remember all the good stuff about the other person and say, you know what? I see that your daddy is really good at that, and I see that in you. Ooh, I'm so glad you pulled that. My son's father is an amazing cook, and his step-up dad is an amazing cook. And I am so grateful that my son, he had it in him to be a great cook, and he loves to cook, and he cooks for me, he cooks for his fiance, so he does that. And I constantly say, oh man, I'm so glad that you got that from your dad and your step-up dad. That's find the things, even if it's one thing, find the thing that you really did like so that child can hold on to that.
Yeah.
But now, mind you, the thing that my child didn't like about his father, he didn't like it. Of course, I didn't like it either, but he didn't like it that his father would tell him something and it didn't happen. So I'm like, don't do that. Don't you do that. If
Yeah.
you understand that you don't like that, don't you do that. And
Right.
if you do that, is that something that when that happened to you, you didn't like it? So why are you doing that to me?
Yeah. And those are
And
teachable
not
moments.
necessarily tearing his dad down, but it's just showing him that you don't want to fall into these habits that
Correct.
you didn't like either.
Correct. And those are
So
teachable
I
moments.
hope they help somebody. I don't know. I hope they
Yeah.
help somebody. Well, now we have to close. It's like, oh my gosh, it's just we're gonna have to do this again next year. I already know that. But
Anytime.
real quick, tell people how to find you, and I need you to talk quickly about the Mother's Day cook-off because I think that sounds bomb. I love
Okay,
it.
so they can find us on any of the platforms, or you can just go to our website at www.brlivinglegacy.org or birthrightlivinglegacy.org. They'll take you to the same place. We're on all social media platforms. But the Mother's Day cookouts, what those are, that is an opportunity for the dads to be able to, one, showcase their cooking skills with the child. To be able to team up, and then we're going to have a pot for them to win some prizes and some money. But it's to invite moms out so that they don't have to think, well, what is this ambiguous group that is just for men, and what are they teaching and what are they saying? We want to make it as inclusive as possible so that people understand that mom and dad are so vital. But mom has a lot of celebration and support right now. Fathers have none. There is no organization that I'm aware of in the United States and the world that supports fathers when they are in need. Everybody has this mindset that says, oh, that's a man, he needs to get his life together. And everybody always tells me, oh man, this is so great what you're doing. How come nobody's donating and giving? And I said, well, if you saw a man that needed help, would you help him?
Mm-hmm. That's deep. That's deep. And I'm just gonna say yes, because I have some fathers in my life. Because I used to work at the Air Force Base, and I had some young fathers in my life, and I did help. I helped with babysitting, and I helped them to communicate effectively with the baby mamas. So yes, I am there. We have got to go. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Happy Father's Day to every man listening. And if you're a woman listening, please let a man that you know in your life share this with them, because this is some really good information. We talk about what fathers are not doing. Let's help them to do what they need to do, and this is one way to help them do that. I want to say happy Father's Day to my daddy, O.C. Tolson, and to the step-up dad that came through with my son, Scott Parker. I love both of you guys, and I can't wait to see what kind of father my son is going to be. He's a dog daddy now. He's doing a great job. So I can't wait to see what he's going to do, because I know he's learned a lot. Thank you so much. And until next season, everybody,
Can I add one thing?
go ahead.
Please, next year, when we do our Fatherhood Love Lottery, you need to put those men in. We're going to be doing a giveaway on the 17th where we're giving 3 dads over $1,000 and so many prizes and things that we have raised for other people in the community that want to support dads. So make sure next year when it's time, we will definitely have those guys in to win because we want to be able to celebrate these dads.
Thank you so much, guys. Until next season, be blessed.